Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, and I'm going to spend a few minutes, longer than my normal 2-minute updates. This is going to be a longer video for me to describe exactly what we're looking for and try to answer some of your questions with regards to this group briefing that you've been tasked to develop by Lesson 38. First of all, I've established a few Teams channels that are specifically related to your table back in the classroom. This is an area designed for you guys to collaborate and work together and connect somehow as you work towards this briefing product. I see that some of you have already established extraneous channels that you can work towards, either a text thread or something like that, which is totally acceptable. I want to just give you guys an easy opportunity to connect, and if you choose to do it elsewhere or do it in some other form, that's completely fine with me. I'm not monitoring those channels on Teams, but I do have access to them. I'm just checking to see if people are engaged, but I'm not making inputs, I'm not reading anything substantive, I'm not providing feedback unless you want me to, and I can jump in as needed. So first of all, you need to really establish communications with your table mates to make sure you're all on the same page, walking towards this objective of developing a slide deck. You've got between now and Lesson 30, as we talk about the operational design model, to develop kind of a draft version of this slide. Lesson 31 is going to be devoted to your groups connecting with me, however you want to do it, just to get some quick vector checks and feedback from me as you have the opportunity to continue to mature that briefing between Lessons 32 to Lesson 38 when it's due. So first thing, make sure you establish good communication with your team. If somebody is not engaged, please let me know. I will reach out to them individually, but I'm expecting everybody to pull their own weight. This is a 150-point assignment. 50 points will be peer-reviewed and an opportunity for you guys to assess the involvement of your classmates, and I'm expecting honest feedback. So peers that do not contribute, do not engage, do not do a thing, they will be rewarded 0 points, and I will hear that from your peers. So please stay engaged. Okay, moving forward, this operational design construct, I've posted a template slide in the file section of each of the team's pages where you can look at that, download that as a group, make sure you're tracking on it. I've put some very clear guidance and some example slides on what's going to be expected and just kind of a template for you guys to work off of so you're not coming at this from a completely blank slate. For example, the first phase of the operational design process is national, in-state, and national objectives, followed by military in-state and military objectives. As a group, you should have already kind of worked together to look at all the strategic documentation, the national defense strategy, national security strategy, national military strategy, to evaluate exactly what the national guidance is related to the real-world problem that your table has chosen. This can be any kind of problem you desire from any COCOM, even if it's not the COCOM that you are working towards when you're in the classroom. This should be a near-peer problem set that a COCOM is facing. Examples might include North Korea nuclear development, China expansion in the South China Sea, Russia involvement in Syria, Iran nuclear development, Russia expansion in Crimea and their dominance and their nuclear aspirations in the region. So any one of these things can be identified as a near-peer problem facing our combatant commanders. So your table needs to decide what is going to be the problem you are going to be unpacking. I don't care what it is. You don't have to deconflict as groups. I can have 10 scenarios on the South China Sea, and I'm totally fine with that. Just make sure you guys pick something meaningful that you feel comfortable digging into. So you should have already looked as a team and a table to develop that first slide or two that describes the national in-state and national objectives, followed by the military in-state and military objectives. The military piece can be found via a quick Google search. Look at the COCOM posture statement. So CENTCOM posture statement. Google that, and you should get a clear understanding of what the combatant commander is looking for in his or her region. Moving forward, the second part of this operational design process is the PMISI analysis, political, military, economic, social, infrastructure, and information. This is really just an opportunity to unpack the landscape, both friendly and adversary, on what's there. Militarily, you'll need to understand what the adversary's capabilities are, what kind of military hardware they have, what bases are located where. Inversely, you need to understand what the United States capabilities are, what we have to bring to bear, what battle groups are in the region, what military bases are in the region, what army posts are in the region, to understand what our capabilities are. Politically, you need to understand who the leaders are on both sides, what their bents are. Generally speaking, this should only be focused on what is going to be relevant to your problem and your future military solution. So the PMISI analysis is going to capture a couple slides. Again, look at the template. I've provided some examples for you. The third phase of this is identifying the problematic conditions and the desired conditions. A good PMISI analysis will have revealed kind of what the lay of the land is. You've already understood your national objectives and military objectives, and you should be able to identify a disconnect. This is a problematic condition, and this is a desired condition. So they're going to be very simple statements. The problem is X. The desired condition is really the opposite of X. China has influence in the South China Sea. We don't want to have China have influence. We want to disrupt China's influence in the South China Sea. It could be as black and white as that. Don't overcomplicate it. The textbook is crystal clear on describing this, as well as the video that Dr. Burke laid out. So that's phase 3. You'll have a clear delineation of what the problem conditions are and the desired conditions. You want to spend a fair amount of time on this section of on this portion. Make sure your words are clear. Make sure your direction is clear, because if you've identified the wrong problem, everything you do from this part forward is going to be irrelevant, and you'll be solving the wrong problem. So make sure you spend time adequately addressing what you need the situation to look like to achieve your national objectives. It's really just looking at the operational environment, what the problem is that's prohibiting you from achieving your objectives, and then how you can change from left to right that situation. The fourth phase of this is identifying the centers of gravity. I provided some templates as well in the slide deck for centers of gravity. Clausewitz would define the centers of gravity as a source of all strength. This is kind of the central hub through which any military maintains its power or its source of strength. There's different ideas out there. Some would have argue that there's more than one center of gravity, so you can have a couple things if required. Make sure you do the reading, listen to Dr. Burke's lecture, and identify the source of all the strength that is enabling this problematic condition to exist. And your center of gravity is going to be the focal point for which all operations are focused on for the most part moving forward. The final phase of this operational design process is beginning to identify lines of effort. Each briefing, I'm expecting to have 3 or 4 lines of effort. These are specific things that your military is going to do. We're not talking economic policy. We're not talking diplomacy. This is not a civilian institution. This is the Air Force Academy, so we're going to be looking at military solutions specifically to solve the military problem, what the military can do to solve this problem, change the desired conditions or change the problem conditions to the desired conditions. So make sure you're identifying ends, ways, and means along this continuum of line of effort. I can walk through examples down the road if needed, but just give you a sense, much of your slide deck is going to be devoted to a clear explanation of the lines of effort and how you're going to change the problem condition into the desired condition, ultimately to achieve your end state. That really sums up the operational design construct. Again, between now and lesson 31, I believe, you're going to have time to develop these briefing slides as a table, as a team, complete with good notes pages that clearly articulate things that you cannot cleanly articulate on the slides themselves, and submit those to me for a vector check. The objective here is not so much to make a perfect military plan, but is to cleanly apply the operational design model as described in the textbook through the course of this class. The final deliverable, again, worth 150 points, is going to be on lesson 38, where your team will send me the final consolidated briefing on this. That's going to clearly identify all of this stuff. You're going to have more time between now and lesson 38 to develop this firmly, so you'll get a vector check or a quick idea scrub from me on lesson 31. Hey, you're on the right track. You might want to try to consider this. I'll ask some pointed questions. Why did you select this as the center of gravity? Does it make sense to me? Again, all I'm looking for is a linear thought process from left to right on how this is going to work. So you need the focus of this class moving forward is to develop an operational design model for a problem in your combatant command. I know this is a long video, it's approaching 10 minutes, so I'll wrap it up here, but I want to give you this as a reference document, a reference video looking back. Please evaluate it, dig into it, digest it in concert with the textbook, in concert with Dr. Burke's video where he fully describes each phase of the operational design process. These will be immensely helpful as you work towards this briefing. If you have any questions, I'm always available on chat. Please let me know. Thank you for all your effort and patience. Hang in there.